Galen trudged through the red dust of the alien planet, every step sinking into the loose, warm soil. The sky above glowed with strange colors, swirling greens and purples that made the horizon seem alive. He wiped sweat from his brow and checked his scanner again. Nothing. Just rocks. Just wind. Just emptiness. He sighed. Another day of searching for resources for the human colony, and it seemed hopeless. Then, a sudden flash of movement caught his eye. A shadow, large and fast, darted behind a jagged rock. Galen froze. His hand went to the blaster at his belt, but he didn't fire. Something about the movement felt different. Not hostile. Fragile. He crept closer, staying low, scanning carefully. There it was. A dragon. Not like the stories or the holographic recordings the humans had studied, but real. Its scales shimmered like molten metal, catching the light of the alien sky. Its wings were torn, one bent at a cruel angle. Blood stained the dust beneath it. The dragon was small compared to the giants in the archives, but it radiated power, even in pain. It tried to lift its head, only to collapse again with a weak hiss. Galen's heart pounded. He knew dragons were supposed to be ancient, nearly extinct, and dangerous. But he also knew that this one was dying, and maybe he could help. He moved slowly, speaking in soft tones, though he didn't expect it to understand. "I'm not here to hurt you. I can help." The dragon's golden eyes opened. They burned with intelligence, not fear. Galen felt a strange connection. He could see its pain, its confusion, and maybe even a flicker of trust. But the wind shifted, carrying the scent of predators. Alien creatures, long and thin with sharp claws and glowing eyes, were circling in the distance. Galen's mind raced. There was no way he could fight them head-on. He had no weapons strong enough to match them. But humans were clever. He scanned the area, his eyes landing on a cluster of jagged rocks and metal scraps he had passed earlier. If he could lure the creatures into a trap, he might give the dragon a chance to survive. He grabbed a heavy piece of metal and tossed it far from the dragon. The creatures twitched their heads and moved toward the noise. Good. Step 1. Galen ducked behind a rock, picking up sticks and wires he had left from earlier explorations. He tied them together, forming a crude snare. His hands shook, but he worked fast, knowing every second counted. The creatures got closer. Their claws dug into the soil, and they hissed in a language harsh and alien. The dragon tried to rise again, but it fell forward. Galen knew it couldn't hold out much longer. Sweat dripped into his eyes, stinging, but he kept going, weaving the trap carefully. Finally, it was ready. He let out a loud whistle and kicked some dust toward the approaching predators. They turned, snarling, and charged right into his trap. A snare caught one. A falling rock pinned another. Galen ran to the dragon, leaning over it. His breathing was shallow, but it didn't struggle. "You're safe, for now," Galen whispered, feeling the weight of the creature's life pressing against him. He had no medical tools for alien biology, but he pressed a hand against its side, hoping his warmth, his presence, might do something. The dragon's eyes closed for a moment, then opened, looking directly into his. And in that gaze, Galen felt something strange. A spark, almost like a heartbeat that wasn't his own. A low rumble shook the ground. Galen looked up to see more predators in the distance, too many to fight. But the dragon moved slightly, struggling, and he noticed something incredible. Its tail lashed, and energy crackled around it. It wasn't attacking, they seemed to sense him protecting it. Galen felt a surge of hope. Maybe the dragon understood that he was helping. Maybe it even trusted him. Minutes felt like hours. Galen stayed by the dragon's side, keeping it calm, keeping predators distracted with clever moves and distractions. Finally, the distant predators gave up for now, slipping back into the alien brush. Galen exhaled, leaning against the dragon. Its breathing was uneven, weak, but steady. For the first time, he dared to speak again. "You're not alone," he said. The dragon shifted slightly and nudged his arm with its head. The connection he felt deepened, and a strange warmth spread through him, like electricity running along his veins. He didn't understand it, but he didn't care. He would stay with this creature no matter what. Above, the alien sky burned with colors, and below, a human and a dragon waited together. Neither of them would survive easily, yet both were stubborn, alive, and unwilling to give up. And in that quiet, tense moment, Galen realized something he couldn't explain. Whatever was coming, whatever danger lay ahead, he and the dragon were bound now. And for the first time he felt ready. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows. The dragon hissed softly, its eyes reflecting the sky. Galen's hand stayed on its side. Tomorrow they would face new dangers. But tonight they were together, and that mattered. Galen felt the dragon's weak breath against his hand, each inhale shallow and uneven. The creatures had retreated, but their eyes still watched from the shadows, glowing faintly in the alien twilight. He didn't know how much longer the dragon could last. Its wing twitched, one torn membrane dragging along the dusty ground, and Galen realized with a sinking heart that this magnificent creature might die in his arms. He scanned the surroundings, looking for anything, water, medicinal plants, alien minerals that might help. Nothing. The planet offered him no tools, no safety. Just endless red soil and jagged rocks. He pressed his palm harder against the dragon's side, hoping to transfer warmth, hoping it would help, even though logic told him it wouldn't. He whispered, "Hold on, please, don't leave me yet." The dragon's eyes fluttered open. For a moment it seemed to look directly into his soul. Galen felt a strange pull, like a current running from the dragon into him. He jerked back slightly, startled, but didn't remove his hand. The warmth wasn't just physical, it was something else, something alive. He had no words for it, just a feeling deep in his chest that told him this creature was extraordinary in ways humans could barely understand. Suddenly, the dragon gasped, and Galen froze. His body shivered violently. He tried to lift it gently, but the muscles refused to cooperate. The dragon let out a soft, hoarse roar, a sound full of pain and warning. Galen's heart thumped painfully. "I've got you," he said, voice trembling. "You won't die alone." But the dragon's strength was fading fast. Its wings twitched once, weakly, and its tail moved in a slow, half-hearted motion. Galen noticed something that made him gasp: glimmers of light, faint sparks, running along the dragon's scales. They weren't just reflections from the alien sun. They were alive, pulsing with energy. The dragon's body was breaking down, but something ancient and powerful stirred inside it. A low rumble began in the ground beneath them. Galen's eyes widened as he felt vibrations, faint at first but growing stronger. The air shimmered slightly around the dragon, like heat rising from a desert. Galen had studied alien creatures, had read every report, but he had never encountered this. He whispered, almost to himself, What is happening?" The dragon's chest heaved one final time. It let out a sound, less a roar and more a long, resonating hum that vibrated through Galen's bones. Then, as suddenly as it began, the light flared, spreading from the dragon into him. Galen stumbled backward, his eyes wide, as if the world itself had shifted. He felt energy coursing through his veins, warm and wild, unfamiliar yet somehow right. Pain shot through him, sharp and electric. Galen gritted his teeth, clutching the ground to keep from falling. The dragon's body went still, and for a terrifying moment, he feared he had lost it entirely. But the energy remained, filling him, wrapping around him, making his senses scream. He could see the world differently. The wind, the dust, even the faint footprints of predators in the distance became clear in ways he couldn't explain. Galen staggered, breathing hard, but he didn't collapse. The human instinct to survive, to adapt, kicked in. He tested the energy. A small flicker of light shot from his fingertips and danced in the air before vanishing. His jaw dropped. No, this isn't possible. Yet deep inside he knew it was. Something of the dragon, its power, its life force, had fused with him. He felt it not just as strength but as knowledge, memory, and purpose. The alien predators were still out there, but for the first time, Galen did not feel fear. He could sense them, anticipate their movements. He could move faster than he ever had. His mind raced with possibilities. He wasn't just a human anymore. He was something more, something that carried the legacy of a dragon within him. He knelt beside the dragon's lifeless form. Its eyes had closed, its breathing ceased. Yet he felt no sadness, only awe and a deep respect. "Thank you," he whispered, tears blurring his vision. "I'll carry your power, your story." He laid a hand over the dragon's chest, feeling the final warmth fading, and then slowly rose, his body humming with the newfound energy. Galen looked up at the alien sky, now a deep swirl of colors as night approached. The stars seemed brighter, closer, as if acknowledging the change within him. He could feel the dragon's presence, not in its body, but inside his mind, a quiet strength guiding him. Every nerve, every cell, pulsed with life. Then the first sound reached him, shuffling in the distance, faint but deliberate. Predators were approaching again. Galen flexed his hands, feeling the power ready to respond. He didn't panic. He didn't run. He would face them. Humans survived not because they were the strongest, but because they were clever, adaptable, and brave. And now, with the dragon's power inside him, he had a chance to prove that to the universe. He stepped forward, each movement confident, precise, alive. The predators froze for a moment, sensing something different. Galen's eyes glowed faintly, a reflection of the dragon's ancient energy. And in that moment, he knew this was only the beginning. The dragon had died in his arms, but its power had awakened in him, and humanity had gained a champion. Galen woke to the alien sunrise, the sky painted in streaks of orange and violet. His body ached, but it wasn't normal pain. It was the dragon's energy adjusting within him. He sat up slowly, feeling every nerve and muscle thrumming with life in a way he had never known. Each breath carried a strange warmth, and when he moved his hands, faint sparks of light danced across his fingers. First, he panicked. The power inside him was unpredictable. A simple reach toward a rock sent it sliding across the ground as if invisible hands had pushed it. He stumbled back, wide-eyed. "Calm down," he whispered, trying to control his racing heart. Think like a human. Humans survive because we adapt." He remembered the dragon's final gaze, the trust it had given him. That thought steadied him. He closed his eyes and focused, drawing the energy into himself rather than letting it burst outward. Slowly, a rhythm formed. It was like breathing with a new lung, feeling a new heartbeat that wasn't entirely his own. The sparks on his fingertips flickered, then steadied. Testing his limits, Galen raised his arm and envisioned a small orb of light hovering above his hand. It shimmered for a moment, then popped and vanished. He tried again. This time, the orb stayed, floating gently, glowing with a soft golden light. A smile broke across his face. "I can control it," he said, awe in his voice. "I really can." The day passed in a blur of experiments. Galen discovered he could move small objects without touching them, sense vibrations in the ground, and even glimpse faint trails of heat and energy left behind by other living creatures. It was exhausting. Every action drained him at first, but slowly, the dragon's power began to feel like a part of him rather than a force fighting him. By evening, the distant sounds of predators reached him. They were clever, persistent, and fast. Humans could not outrun them in this open desert, but Galen had something no human had before. He concentrated, and a thin shield of shimmering energy formed around him. When the nearest predator lunged, it bounced harmlessly off the barrier. Galen's heart raced, not with fear, but with exhilaration. Still, he knew raw power alone was not enough. Humans survived through intelligence and creativity. He began testing combinations of his new abilities. He could lift heavy rocks with ease and launch them, using the energy as a sling. He could sense the terrain and predict predator movements. He could even enhance his speed slightly, enough to stay ahead of the creatures. Each experiment made him more confident, more attuned to the dragon's presence within him. Night fell, and the temperature dropped sharply. Galen huddled beside a rock formation, drawing the energy inward to warm himself. He felt the dragon's memories, flashes of battles fought centuries ago, skies he had never seen, and the wisdom of survival. It was overwhelming, but he focused on what mattered: human ingenuity. He remembered traps he had used before, simple machines, and the strategies humans relied on to outsmart stronger foes. Now, combined with the dragon's power, he felt unstoppable. A low rumble alerted him to movement. Predators emerged from the shadows, circling cautiously. Galen's heart pounded, but he did not hesitate. He envisioned a path of energy along the ground, invisible but deadly, guiding the predators toward a cluster of rocks. They stepped where he wanted, triggering small collapses and barriers. Galen darted between them, moving faster than his human body should allow, using the dragon's power to manipulate the environment. It was working. The predators were confused, their coordination faltering. Galen smiled, feeling the thrill of survival, the joy of human ingenuity enhanced by alien strength. He realized something vital. The power was not just a gift, it was a responsibility. He could protect humans, outsmart dangers, and survive against impossible odds. The dragon's death had given him more than energy. It had given him purpose. As the night deepened, Galen climbed to a ridge overlooking the alien plains. The sky was a swirl of stars and distant auroras. He held his hands up, small sparks of energy flickering between his fingers. He could feel the planet's rhythm, the pulse of life around him, and the lingering presence of the dragon. He whispered, "I understand now. I'll use this. I'll protect. I'll survive. I'll be human." And more. For the first time, he felt at peace with the transformation. The energy within him was no longer foreign or frightening. It was a part of his mind, his body, his soul. He had awakened not just to power, but to possibility. Humans had always been clever, brave, and relentless. Now, with the dragon's gift, he was proof that humanity could reach even further. Suddenly, movement caught his eye. Another group of predators approaching, far larger than before. Galen's body hummed with energy. Ready. He clenched his fists, feeling the sparks of light racing along his arms. "Bring it on," he said aloud, his voice steady and fearless. "Humans never give up." And with that, he leaped into the night, a human carrying the ancient power of a dragon, ready to face whatever the alien world would throw at him. He was alone, yes, but never weak. The dragon's power was alive inside him, and so was human ingenuity. Together, they were unstoppable. The horizon glowed faintly with the first hints of dawn, and Galen knew this was only the beginning. The colony had been silent for hours, the alien wind whispering through the empty streets and metal walls. Galen stood at the edge of the ridge overlooking it, his chest still humming with the dragon's energy. From here, he could see the danger approaching. A massive wave of alien predators, more than he had ever faced before. Long, spindly bodies, claws like scythes, teeth glinting in the fading light. They moved with purpose, clearly hunting. Humans in the colony were defenseless. Their weapons were primitive compared to the predator's speed and strength, and their shelters offered little protection. Galen felt a flash of anger. These humans had survived hardships on their own, but they were outmatched here. He clenched his fists, feeling the dragon's power thrumming in him. "I can't let them die," he muttered. "I won't." He descended carefully into the plains, thinking fast. The terrain was jagged, filled with loose rocks and narrow ridges. He could use it. He could manipulate the environment with the energy inside him, creating traps and barriers faster than any human could build. His mind raced, mapping out the battlefield like a general planning a siege. As the predators neared, Galen summoned a wall of shimmering energy to block the main path. When one of the creatures lunged forward, it slammed into the barrier and skidded back, hissing in confusion. Galen pushed the energy outward, directing the creatures into narrow gaps where rocks and dust slides would slow them down. It worked. Slowly, the predator's coordinated assault began to falter. He moved with precision, each step measured, each motion calculated. Humans were clever. That was their greatest strength. He combined their ingenuity with the dragon's raw power. A boulder was lifted and hurled, pinned between two ridges, blocking a group of attackers. Energy bursts sent them flying off cliffs, and some predators fled when sparks cracked near their heads. Galen's mind raced. He was no longer just a human. He was a human enhanced, using thought, cunning, and alien strength as one. Inside the colony, humans watched in awe. A few had ventured outside to help, but most hid, terrified. When Galen appeared atop the ridges, glowing faintly with dragon energy, they realized salvation had come in a form they couldn't have imagined. Mothers clutched children, soldiers lowered their weapons, and elders whispered among themselves. A human could stand against this threat, and maybe even survive. Galen felt the dragon's presence guiding him, whispering strategies he could barely comprehend but instinctively understood. He leaped from ridge to ridge, energy carrying him farther and faster than his legs alone could. A predator charged from the side, claws aimed for him, but he twisted midair, letting a thin energy blade cut a swath across the sand, redirecting the creature harmlessly into a rockfall. Another predator approached from behind, and Galen's mind calculated angles, speed, and trajectory. With a flick of his hands, he lifted a pile of debris and sent it rolling down toward it. The creature barely dodged and retreated in confusion. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt different when powered by the dragon's energy. Galen's body did not tire as fast, and his mind felt sharper, more alive. Yet he remained focused, careful not to become overconfident. Humans survived because they adapted. He adapted now, combining instinct, creativity, and the dragon's strength. The last wave of predators surged from the horizon. They were bigger, more dangerous, their claws longer and bodies faster. Galen felt a thrill of fear, sharp and electric, but he did not let it control him. Instead, he used it. He concentrated, drawing the dragon's energy into a single pulse. When he released it, a radiant shockwave surged outward, knocking predators back and creating space. It was enough to scatter the largest group, breaking their formation. Humans began to move cautiously, helping where they could, inspired by Galen's control and bravery. He coordinated with them, pointing, signaling, directing them to aid in simple ways, blocking small paths, creating noise to distract, or moving debris to trap predators. They followed without hesitation, realizing that even ordinary humans could be extraordinary when guided by courage and intelligence. Finally, the last predator hesitated at the edge of the battlefield. It stared at Galen, recognizing him not as prey but as something else, something powerful and cunning. Galen stepped forward, energy crackling around him. The predator lunged one final time, and he sidestepped, channeling the dragon's energy to lift it high into the air and toss it far away. It hit the ground, stunned, before retreating into the darkness. Silence fell. The humans cheered, relief and awe flooding the colony. Galen stood among them, breathing hard, but not exhausted. His heart still throbbed with energy, but the thrill was not just from battle. It was from victory, from proving that humans could survive, adapt, and even thrive against impossible odds. The dragon's power had awakened something inside him, but it was his mind, his ingenuity, and his courage that had won the day. He walked through the colony, people staring with a mixture of fear and reverence. "It's okay," he said quietly. "You're safe now." Their voices rose in gratitude, but Galen didn't answer. He felt the dragon's presence within him, steady, patient, and powerful. He knew this was only the beginning. Other dangers would come, bigger than this, but humans had something no predator could match: ingenuity, courage, and the will to survive. That night, he climbed the ridge again, looking over the plains. The predators had fled, but their tracks marked the land. Galen flexed his hands, energy flickering across his fingers. He could sense the planet differently now, every movement, every life form, every danger. He had grown beyond human limits, but he remained human at heart. The wind whispered around him, carrying distant sounds, and he realized the dragon's legacy was no longer alone. Its power lived in him, yes, but it had awakened something in humans too. the realization that they were clever, brave, and capable of facing even the deadliest threats. He closed his eyes and let the energy flow, steadying himself. The colony was safe for now, but tomorrow would bring new challenges. Galen smiled faintly, ready. Humans had survived countless dangers, and now, with the dragon's power inside him, he would ensure they thrived. The stars above shone brightly, reflecting in his eyes. He was a human, yes, but also more, and the universe would remember that. The dawn was cold, but Galen felt warmth coursing through his veins. The dragon's energy pulsed steadily inside him, no longer wild or painful, but part of his very being. He stood at the edge of the colony, looking at the alien horizon, knowing that what he had survived yesterday was only the beginning. The predators had retreated, but the planet was vast, full of dangers, and the humans still depended on him. He remembered the dragon's final gaze, the trust it had placed in him, and he felt a deep responsibility settle in his chest. This was more than power, it was a legacy. He had been given a chance not just to survive, but to lead, to inspire, to show humanity what it could become when pushed to its limits. The colony stirred below. People were emerging cautiously from their shelters, their eyes wide with a mixture of awe and fear. Children peeked from behind their parents, elders whispered among themselves, and soldiers rubbed their eyes, still not certain whether what they had seen was real. Galen descended into the colony slowly, his energy radiating faintly around him. Every movement was deliberate, controlled, showing strength without arrogance, power without cruelty. A small group of humans ran toward him, led by a young scout named Kieran. "Galen," he shouted. We saw what you did. You saved us." His voice trembled, a mixture of relief and disbelief. Galen nodded, keeping his attention calm and measured. "I didn't do it alone. You all helped in your way. Humans survive because we think, because we adapt, because we never give up." The words resonated. The humans looked at one another, realizing that survival was not about strength alone, but courage, intelligence, and unity. Galen's body hummed with the dragon's energy, but it was his mind, human, clever, resilient, that had orchestrated their victory. They were starting to understand something fundamental. Even against overwhelming odds, humans could prevail. Galen spent the next hours walking through the colony, helping where he could. He lifted debris with the energy coursing through him, repaired damaged structures, and guided humans to make simple, clever defenses. Everywhere he went, people followed, inspired by both his actions and the energy they could sense radiating from him. They were learning without knowing it, witnessing a human transformed, a human who had carried the legacy of a dragon and turned it into hope. By midday, scouts returned with news of the predators' tracks. They were scattered, weakened, but still dangerous. Galen studied them carefully, feeling the pulses of energy left behind, sensing patterns others could not. He formulated a plan, teaching humans how to anticipate the predators' moves, how to use the terrain, how to combine their simple tools with clever tactics. For the first time, humans were not just hiding. They were learning to fight back with strategy, intelligence, and courage. At night, he climbed to a ridge overlooking the plains again. The stars above reflected faintly in his eyes, and the dragon's presence whispered inside his mind. He could feel the energy stretching outward, touching the land, touching the humans below, connecting everything in a subtle, living web. The dragon's life had ended in pain, but its power now lived in him, and through him, it could inspire others. He realized something profound. Humans were not the strongest species in the universe. They were not the fastest, the largest, or the most deadly. But they were clever. They were adaptable. They were persistent. And when a human carried courage, heart, and purpose, even the impossible could be achieved. The dragon's power was extraordinary, yes, but without Galen's mind and spirit, it would have been meaningless. Together, they had become something far greater than either alone. The colony gathered as he descended from the ridge the next day. Children ran toward him, laughing despite the harsh landscape. Adults bowed their heads in respect, but Galen raised his hand, signaling calm. "You've survived. he said softly. And now you can do more. You can learn. You can adapt. You can protect one another. He demonstrated the energy carefully, lifting small objects, showing humans how to harness clever strategies against danger. The power was too great for them to wield directly, but the lessons were clear. Observation, planning, ingenuity, and courage could amplify even small strength. The humans watched intently, inspired, understanding that survival did not come from brute force. It came from cleverness and heart. Weeks passed, and Galen became more than a protector. He became a symbol. Scouts reported fewer predator attacks, not because the predators were gone, but because the humans had changed. They anticipated danger, worked together, and adapted quickly. And whenever threats approached, they looked to Galen, not as a god, but as proof of what humans could achieve. A clever, courageous mind combined with extraordinary effort. One evening, Galen stood alone at the edge of the colony, the sun dipping below the horizon. The wind whispered around him, carrying distant scents of the alien plains. He flexed his hands, feeling the dragon's energy pulse faintly but steadily. It was a reminder, a gift, a responsibility. He had grown beyond what humans thought possible, but he was still human at heart. And that mattered most. The dragon had died in his arms, but its legacy lived in him. And through him, humans could reach heights they had never imagined. Galen smiled faintly, a sense of peace settling over him. The universe was dangerous, vast, and often cruel, but humans were capable. Brave, clever, persistent humans. And now they had a champion, a teacher, and a reminder of their own extraordinary potential. The stars glimmered, alien and distant, but Galen didn't feel small. He felt alive, strong, human, and more. The dragon's power had awakened inside him, but the true strength came from his courage, his mind, and his heart. And humanity, through him, had become unstoppable.